But that realistic expectation, let me learn, is getting the PMP is amazing. It gives you an amazing foundational knowledge to speak like a project manager. And as us veterans, we need that, okay? If you go to an organization that has almost no veterans in it, 1, 2, 3, maybe none. There are many organizations that have none. Yeah. You might be the first one. And you go in there talking about, yeah, we're ready to go get this op going, and for the mission, we're going to be success. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? You know, they don't speak that language that you've been speaking for X number of years. So now you got to get that, you getting that PMP or even your CAPM teaches you a little speak like a civilian project manager.
Welcome back to the Vets to PM Military Transition Academy podcast. Today, we are talking about something every service member asks at some point. How do I take what I did in the military and turn it into a real career on the outside? So to walk us through it today, I've got Dr. Josh Cunio with me. Josh is an Army veteran. He's a PMP. He's the managing director of P3M Strategies, and he's one of our own Vets to PM alumni. His journey shows exactly how to connect the dots from realizing that he's been running projects all the time in the uniform to earning his PMP just 1 month after the boot camp, and to building a career that's taken him all the way to a doctor of business administration and his own consulting company. So if you've been wondering how to make the same leap, how to use the skills that you already have, earn the credentials that open doors, and step into a project management career with confidence, you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. Welcome, Josh, to the show. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Misty. It's great to be back in the Vets to PM fold again. This was a very big turning point in my career journey, so to speak, when coming out of the military. I was transitioning out due to an injury, and I was like, well, what am I going to do in my life? Well, I don't remember how it happened, but I met this guy named Doc Wright, and
yeah,
and he told me all
he's about, somebody, he's someone special, huh?
yeah. And ultimately, went through the Vets to PM boot camp. I think I was one of the first within the first year or so of Vets to PMs coming about, and I learned so much, and then ultimately got my PMP, and then, that's kind of where my journey took off from. So I'm really, really excited to be here today.
And Doc is one of those people that you don't really forget. He has a lot of charisma. He's really passionate about what he does and how he leads the company to do what we get to do every single day. And Doc is really, adamant that everyone deserves a meaningful and lucrative post-service career, whatever that definition is, to the veteran. And yeah, I'm sure that when he met you, he probably saw a lot of potential, and it wasn't right away where he realized, hey, project management is something that us veterans probably do all the time in our military careers. It was when he was on his military transition journey, and he was like, wow, this is what we do, and I'm on a mission to make sure that every service member and veteran understands, like, hey, if you want a meaningful and lucrative, post-service career, project management is one way to do it. So talk to us, about your PMP journey and why you thought that was a big deal, why you spent the time, the energy, and the money in order to achieve that.
Well, so we'll go back, right? So when I was still in the Army, I got injured, and after trying to get rehabilitated better to stay in the Army, it wasn't going to happen. So that's when the Army finally said, hey, we're going to go ahead and medically retire you. So we're going to start doing the med board process. Well, that's like a life-changing moment for any service member when you weren't expecting to get out, and now it's going to happen. So you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do? At the time, I was a CID special agent, and I knew I didn't want to go back into that line of work. So, and this was at the time in the Army, so around 2015, 2016, when the Army was really starting to look at certifications. Like, they were starting to push certifications, like, go get a certification. So my buddy, he was my partner, he come to my office one day and he says, hey, Josh, have you ever heard of this PMP thing? I was like, no, never heard of it. So what do we do, right? We're agents. We're going to go Google everything. So we're Googling PMP, Project Management Professional. And when it brings us to PMI's website, and it shows us all these these requirements are like, yeah, we're never going to get that.
Mm,
Right? Because we had no idea what it was.
yeah.
We didn't know we were doing it already. But then they wanted a degree. They wanted so many years, so many hours, and you know what it's like. Um, so I don't know. So he left my office, but it's like something in the back of my brain was like challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Right? And so I started like really researching. I was like, man, I don't know. It was intriguing. Project management. It was intriguing to me. And then somehow I found Vets to PM. I don't remember if it was LinkedIn or Google search, whatever, but I ended up getting a call with Doc Wright.
Mm,
And I mean, you work with him, so you know how he is. Like he's super passionate, right? Not only
yeah.
about project management, but he's super passionate about helping veterans. And he did probably like what he does with most people. Hey, tell me about what you do in the army. Let's see what we do. And he's like, Josh, you've been doing project management this whole time.
Oh my gosh, you just did like the best impersonation of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's how it is. And I'm like, there's no way. I don't believe you, Doc.
Yeah.
He's like, no, no, listen. He's like, you PCS, you've deployed, you all these things. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I do the boot camp. I sign up, I do the boot camp. And that's when I had my aha moment, mid boot camp. We're going through Doc's giving it on a Saturday. I don't know if it's still like this now, but we used to do boot camps on Saturdays for a few hours.
Yeah.
And I had the aha moment of like, wow, I really have been doing this. When I was in aviation and then when I became an agent, I was doing this. So I was like, okay, awesome. We got through the boot camp. We got my application. I got my PMP, and that's just where it went from there, right? And then I now, that same energy Doc gave me,
Yeah.
I try to give that to other veterans. I'm the same way. I think me and him are like brothers, but he's also been my mentor ever since the first phone call. He's been kind of with my career journey in some form, even all the way to getting to my doctorate. He's in my dissertation, and then he actually sat in on my defense of my dissertation, which was amazing. So he's not the kind of person that's just going to say, I'll be there for you and not really be there. He's truly there with you.
Yeah.
So shout out to Doc Wright again, but he's ultimately what got me on my path to where I am today. Because he let me see through passion and just very clear understanding. And, he broke it down Barney style that, hey, look, you've really been doing this. Let's take advantage of this and get you somewhere where you want to be. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and every veteran is one other veteran away, like from believing in themselves. So Doc is a veteran. He had a terrible transition. He describes it that way, Navy, Army. And it wasn't until he was doing project management at DFAS where he was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what military members do. No more are they going to flounder, and his mission was really just to impact one veteran at a time, one Saturday boot camp at a time. That's how he used to do it because he would work Monday through Friday and then he would do boot camps on the weekends. And that's how he started his business in a little office with a desk on the right side of the wall with a whiteboard on the wall and his wife probably outside like, what do we just do? $500 with a 5-page blueprint or whatever it is, 2-page blueprint. He describes it. And he will believe in you more than you'll believe in yourself until you finally believe in you.
Yeah.
And that is the way that the entire company is at Vets to PM. And so it started with Doc and then Jeremy and then Kathy and then Garrick and then you name it. Now we have 15 full-time employees that are carrying out this vision in order to help military service members, veterans, and spouses become project managers and achieve a meaningful and lucrative post-service career. So you're absolutely right. You were one of the first. And so we're so glad that you're here to talk about the next ones because we're 10 years strong now, almost 11, come up on January 2026. 11 years, 18,000 veterans, 1,000 plus DoD SkillBridge interns, and 2,000 and more and up. I mean, these are just the people that report it. as far as people who have earned employment after achieving their PMP. So glad that you're here and to talk about the benefit of the PMP. So we know how you started your journey. And so now, 10 years later, tell us a little bit about the value of the project management professional, because you're on LinkedIn as well as I am. There's a lot of rhetoric out there about no, military members, you're not project managers, you're not this, PMP is this, it doesn't mean anything. Clear it up for us.
Okay, well, first I'll say veterans, we are project managers. Okay. Are we the definition of project manager that you're going to see in private industry? Maybe not. All right. And that's only because in the military, there's one component of project management that we really don't touch unless you're like a commander or something like that, and that's budgeting.
Yeah.
Which is no fault to a veteran
Nope.
or a service member, right? It's just the way we are in the military. We got very certain people that handle that. And even those certain people they're not really in it in the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
But you're still a project manager because the real world, I know project managers who have been in private industry, they never were a veteran, and guess what? They've never managed a budget because there are a lot of organizations out there that only finance department handles budgeting
Yeah.
or operations handles budgeting, right? So don't feel like just because you've never done budgeting, you can never be a successful project manager. Because the reality is there's a lot of organizations that don't even let project managers manage budgets. It's managed for you.
Exactly. Yeah, like the
Yeah.
comptroller when, at my last company that I worked at, like I knew of the budget. I had to, make sure that we were aligned to the budget. I had to ask about the budget, but I didn't necessarily get to manage it. I had to ask
Exactly.
permission to utilize it. And that's for $42 million construction projects, so
Hmm.
there's so many differences when it comes to project management, but not just between the military and the civilian sector, but from organization to organization.
Exactly. And I think the next biggest thing we got to think about is we have to be able to understand realistic expectations of getting a PMP, right?
Yeah.
I'll be the first to tell you, I got my PMP and I thought I was this project management god. I thought I knew everything about project management. I knew the PMBOK sixth edition like the back of my hand because
Woo!
Doc made me read it like
That was a
six
good
times.
addition.
Yeah, like I mean, I knew it. Like I could do the table, what was it, three tack one? I could do that from memory from like a year. I still could have done it. I knew it. So I thought I knew everything there was about project management. So I got my first job as a project manager right out of the Army, building roads and bridges. And I'm gonna be the first to tell you, I failed horribly, Misty.
Oh
I
yeah.
failed. I didn't know jack about project management in the civilian world.
Hmm.
And that's because I was in charge of a budget that I didn't know anything about. And
Ooh,
they
I
do
bet you had to
things.
do a lot of EVM too.
Well, it wasn't so much EVM, but it's just managing monies
Yeah.
that I never had experience doing in almost 12 years in the Army. Um, but when it came to managing my resources, I was excellent at that, right? Because we're really good at that in the military, especially if you're an NCO and an officer. But that realistic expectation, let me learn, is getting the PMP is amazing. It gives you an amazing foundational knowledge to speak like a project manager. And as us veterans, we need that. Okay. If you go to an organization that has almost no veterans in it, one, two, three, maybe none. There are many organizations that have none. You
Yeah.
might be the first one. And you go in there talking about, yeah, we're ready to go get this op going, and for the mission, we're going to be success. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? They don't speak that language that you've been speaking for X number of years. So now you got to get you getting that PMP or even your CAPM teaches you able to speak like a civilian project manager using those proper terminology. Hey, we have a new project. Now we got to go look at a project management review. We got the governance board. We got to look at quality control, risk management, stakeholders, right? Different terminology. And that's what's good. So that realistic expectation is getting that certification is not a guarantee. Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's the biggest one. It is not a guarantee.
No, and I think let's break that down a little bit. So PMI, Project Management Institute, requires that if you have a 4-year degree, that you need to showcase 36 months of project management experience, and you need to have 35 plus hours of project management training. If you don't have a 4-year degree, it's 60 months. And so that's why Doc and Vets to PM, and why we truly believe that most military members have 36 or 60 months of project management experience, because based on the definition, A project has a start and an end date. It's creating unique value, producing a unique good service, product, or result. You're dealing with scope, schedule, budget. And budget is not just money, budget is resources as well.
Yep.
So, and you're managing risk within quality standards. So if you think about that definition, that's a project, right? So PMI requires you to have this experience, get the training, and then and you know as well as I do, there's different levels to project management based on the organization that you're at, right? Based on the industry that you're in. So sure, can some military members take their PMP along with their, explicit knowledge, the real like the codified the facts and their tacit knowledge, the experience, can they take all that with them and go get a project management role? Absolutely. But there are different levels. And I do think that expectation management is actually going to be one of the things that will help you manage your stress when it comes to the military transition,
Yes.
right? And we had a podcast guest and he explained this the best that I've ever heard it. So I'm going to explain it to you this way and the rest of our audience. Most service members expect to go into the civilian sector and be the equivalent of what they were in the military, right? And we get really upset when we think that people don't see our worth or don't want to pay us for our worth, right? And I'm sure you've seen those conversations on LinkedIn. So he said, reverse it. What if a civilian who was doing 20 years, just say, as human resources, and he wanted to come in and he wanted to be a first sergeant in the military? So straight from the civilian sector, go be a first sergeant in the Army, right? Equivalent wise, he should be able to do that according to what the veteran says, right? But
That's great.
see what I mean? And so, but every single one of us, you're probably like, heck no, right?
Yeah.
Like, because he doesn't what? Because he doesn't know the organization. He doesn't know, the internal, the external influences. He doesn't know the political awareness of that organization. And he has to understand, in order to be a first sergeant in this organization, here are all the things that we're dealing with. Hey, well, that's the same exact concept when we, who served 20 years or 8 years or 13 years, whatever it may be, expect to be the exact same equivalent of what we were in the civilian sector. It just doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way. So I'm not going to lie. I see on LinkedIn all the time, if you were this grade in the military, this is your equivalent government grade, this is your equivalent civilian grade. And I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of it. I think
Yeah.
there's too
We
many
actually just did
variables.
a post like that. It was trying to mirror the experience, right? And this is just generalization. And man, if you go look at that post, a lot of people don't like that post, and I can see why. We're just trying to paint the picture of what you could try, because there are
Yeah.
some veterans who also undercut their value, their experience, and it's like you kind of have two veterans. You have one veteran who wants to go and be the CEO of a company, and you have another veteran who wants to go and, bang a hammer when they were a senior NCO. It's like we gotta be mindful, maybe one level below, and that's what I did when I went to Continental Tire. I didn't want to be the manager or the director right away, so I went to a human resources business partner position, and then that helped me progress. So there is a fine line between undercutting your experience and your worth, and then kind of, you know,
That's why we have to research when we get out and
yeah,
research what job we're going to go into to make sure we don't undercut. I undercut my first job, and I think that's why they hired me so quick because they're like, "What do you make in the army?" And I'm like, I'm making
probably.
like 60,000 a year." It's like, "We'll pay you 65,000 a year." I'm like, "Sweet, this is great."
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah. No, I found out like the people who had like no experience started out at like 80,000 a year. I'm like, and I didn't know this till after the fact, right? And it was already too late. So you got to do your research, right? Again, realistic expectations, but do your research and understand where it's at. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, the PMP, I always like to explain it. The PMP validates your experience because that's exactly what a project management professional is, because you have to have experience and you have to have training. So it validates your real world experience, and it also validates that you know the foundational principles according to this globally recognized standard, right? So we have the PMBOK, which is the project management book of knowledge. And, we're on the 7th edition now, and it's about the mindset of a project manager. And I'd like to, talk a little bit more about this. when I was in the civilian sector as a project manager, I identified quickly that a lot of project managers are technical experts, but they're not leaders. And this is where veterans, are kind of on the up and up because we are technical experts, right? And we're leaders. So I'd love for you to expand on that.
No, that's a great call out. So I've worked for many organizations being out, and you're 100% right. And I'll tell you this, I've actually never worked for an organization where I've worked with people that have gone through leadership training,
Yeah.
an actual formal leadership school, unless they were military. And think about our in our military. You know, you go through, and I know each branch is different, but for the Army, you have as an E4,
Yep.
you go through, I think it's WLC now, Warrior Leader Course. That's your first introduction to becoming a leader. Then you
Yep.
go through Basic Leader Course when you become an E5. Then you go through Advanced Leader Course. Then Senior Leader Course. I think they coming out with Master Leader Course, and
Yeah.
you
And
know,
it's like that for every service. So it's called different things, but it's for the most part, it's the same increment of time. And also if you go to a different skill level, so 3, 5, 7, 9 level, now you're going to training. So you're getting that technical expert training and you're getting that leadership training.
yeah, like my ALC was like 6 weeks long. So
Yeah, mine
that's a
was too.
6 week long leadership school.
Yeah.
Like I think WLC or BLC was like a month long, right? When you go to an organization and they give you leadership training, your organization might give you a week long leadership training, and that's it. And that's all you've been exposed to. So think about when, like you said, you have this veteran come in who's a first sergeant. They've been through probably
Three.
realistically close to 6 months or longer of actual formal leadership schooling. I would say probably closer to a year. And then
Yeah.
if they're a sergeant major, then they went to the sergeant major's academy, which is a year-long leadership school. So they might have multiple years of actual formal leadership, and then they go into an organization. They are going to be true leaders in the organization, and they're technical experts, like you said, because to get to that first sergeant or sergeant major rank, they had to go through and demonstrate their technical capabilities as they're leading troops. And
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and one thing and this is why, so if anyone, you and I, we know, the ins and outs of the PMI, Project Management Institute, and the PMBOK. And so when you and I first took our PMP, we had to read, the sixth edition, front and back, and then Doc,
Yes.
read your glossary, right? And Doc's like, do these questions and all this because
Yes.
you had to know all of the intricacies of initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, adjusting, and closing, right? And so, yeah, and I said execution, I think, but so PMI has switched a little bit. So now that is the focus of CAPM. Those are your entry level project managers, right? And now PMBOK 7 is all about the mindset. And the reason why they're switching, and this is where by 2030, PMI says that we're going to have a project manager shortage. And this is where I believe that the veterans are going to they're going to be able to come in and save the day because the mindset is where we're going to thrive. It's being a project manager, being able to manage, not do the work, manage task, lead people. That's why you assemble a self-organizing team that has that tacit and explicit knowledge as well. The technical experts that know how to do code or know how to do this, know how to do that. And we, as the project manager, are sitting sort of on top, right, with a view down, and we're able to see, okay, what do you need? I'm going to get that obstacle out of the way. I'm going to give you this resource. And that's why we shine as veterans because that's what we do,
Yep.
right?
So I actually was a contributing author or a contributor for the sixth edition. So when I did the PMBOK, I think when I
You
did the
probably did
PMP,
fourth
I
or
was in the
fifth.
fifth edition.
Yeah.
And I'm also a contributor for the seventh edition when it's released. And actually, one of my main focuses when reviewing the seventh edition was looking at leadership in project management. I was looking at that and lessons learned because that's like my thing. But leadership was a big thing, and I can't tell you how many comments and suggestions I put into the seventh edition,
Good for
and I
you.
hope to see that they actually get
So you're
incorporated.
probably, I think you're speaking of eighth edition because the eighth edition will be out in February.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I get them
yeah,
so mixed up
no,
sometimes.
because I did the
Yeah,
same.
eighth
So I
edition
did
is
the
coming
same.
out. So then sixth. or
So
seventh
we
edition I'm a
sixth,
contributor for.
seventh right now, and then you and I contributed to the eighth.
Yes. So, and it was lacking a lot of
Okay.
really good leadership stuff. So I
Yes.
really focused on leadership and lessons learned for the eighth edition. So I'm excited to see when it gets released, what all they incorporate
Yeah, and
this go
I think
around.
it's an important point here because I mean, you can't go one LinkedIn post without seeing, you know, professional project managers that are not veterans that are just coming in and really destroying, veterans' hopes of being a project manager because they're saying, no, you have to be a technical expert and you have to know this and you have to know that. Well, one, every organization is different and every industry is different. But the goal that PMI is trying to sort of, move away from is why do we have to limit project managers to technical experts? We
Yes,
actually need project leaders, right? Change agents, change leaders, right? In order to move the scope, the schedule, the budget, meet the quality, and acquire resources, whatever it may be. We have technical experts as team members.
exactly. And I do a lot of mentoring, especially to veterans who want to get into project management. And I do get asked quite frequently, what does a project manager really do? Like, can you just Barney style, what does a project manager do? And my answer is the same. And this is Josh's belief, right? I believe, yes, does a project manager manage scope, schedule, budget, all that stuff? Yes, we do those things, but that's not the heart of what a project manager does. And through my own experience and seeing others, what a project manager does is this: we develop and foster relationships. That's what we
Yeah.
do, right? And it's
Stakeholder
like you
management.
said, I don't need to be the technical expert. If I'm managing a construction project, it'd be great to have some understanding of construction. But guess what? And even PMI says to do this as a project manager. I'm going to go find my SME and say, hey,
Yep.
superintendent who's been building tilt wall construction for 20 years, why does this to me look wrong? And they're going to say, well, it is wrong, or it's not wrong, and this is why. And they're going to educate me because I've developed and fostered that relationship with my SME or SMEs, right? That's what we do as PMs. We develop and foster relationships because when we need to know something or we need help with something, we go reach out to those people that we got those great relationships with, and they're saying, you know what, Josh, I got you. I got you. And that's helped me out so many times. I get into a new project. The first thing I do is I want to know who's all associated with this project and who's the really important people that I need to know.
Yeah.
HR, finance, the finance people, you always want to know the finance people. I'll tell you that right
And
now.
and also quality.
Yes, and quality. Yes, you get to know them. You befriend them like genuinely. Not this isn't like no fake relationship. As a PM, you got to have genuine relationships. But you know what? It's happened many times where midway through a project, three-quarters of the way through the project, something happens. The stuff hits the rotating oscillator, chaos is breaking out, and I need something like now. And I can reach out to these people and they're like, I got you. I will drop what I'm doing. I'm going to help you. And I've had it where doing the same types of projects, just in a different area from a colleague that didn't do this. Instead, he decided to be behind his computer all the time. When the chaos hit, no one was there to help him because he didn't develop and foster relationships. He thought that he could manage a project through the schedule and not have to talk to people. And he failed. And it happens. So again,
Yeah.
develop and foster those relationships. That's what a PM really does.
Yeah, and I always like to say, and people do not like this analogy, but hear me out. So the number one thing that people tell me all the time is like, oh wait, so being a project manager is like being a glorified babysitter. And you know what I say? I'm like, you're absolutely right, but I want you to change your lens. A babysitter, think about what a babysitter is. Sits the baby, protects them, keeps them safe, right? Gives them what they need, and they're there until from start to finish, and they're kind of like they have this different relationship than with the baby than the parent. They're the hero, right?
Yep.
And so when people call me a glorified babysitter, I'm like, absolutely, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
good, and
because
I get paid a lot to
we should be
babysit.
servant leaders as project managers,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Again, if I'm not the technical expert and I'm managing a team of engineers, they're the ones doing the work. Let's just be
Yep.
realistic. I'm there to say, hey guys, what can I do for you? What impediments can I take out of your way? What do you need? Oh, they're bothering you? I'll go handle those people. And I agree with what you just said, Missy. That's an amazing analogy. I will be a babysitter because I'm going to protect
Yeah.
my team from all that other BS so they can go make things happen and do great things.
Yeah, I remember I was on a project at Continental Tire, and a team member came up to me, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, what's the status of this? And he's like, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I was like, please do. He's like, I haven't even started it. This person has come to me for this. This person has come to me for that. And I looked at him and I was like, who's coming to you? And so, and he was like, I was like, tell me, who's coming to you? And he told me, and I was like, they won't come to you anymore. You go and you do what you need to do. I got this. And I went and I talked to the stakeholder and I let him know. I was like, hey, if you ever need anything from my team, because you have to protect that relationship too, right? But hey, if you ever need anything from my team, I would love it if you came to me because I'm going to put the person that has the bandwidth on that task, you know? So now my team member knows that I've protected them, but now the stakeholder knows, hey, I got you too, but I need you to come to me so I can go ahead and disseminate the work appropriately,
Yep.
right? And being likable is a characteristic of a project manager. So if you do not like people and you do not like being bothered and you do not like, kind of, I hate to say it, but playing both sides because that's what you have to do, right? If you don't like doing that, then being a project manager is not for you. Because if you want to be a project manager to manage tasks and to get work done and to go to the finish line, that's part of it. But that is a very small percentage because being likable and having good relationships and being able to sympathize and empathize, right? And then remove impediments and blockers, that's what a project manager does.
Exactly. And I want to add on to this as a caveat too, Misty, is that we're saying that this is like probably one of the biggest skills as a project manager, being likable and having the ability to develop and foster those relationships. But that doesn't negate our knowledge as project managers, right? We still, as professionals, have to go seek more knowledge. Again, we get the PMP that gives us that foundational knowledge of project management. But you know what? In the real world today, most projects are not um,
Yep.
predictive or waterfall. There's some agile in there, right? So I believe, again, another Josh-ism, is I think a project manager should go out and not necessarily seek certifications. If you get them in route, great, right? Have some more letters after your name. I got so many, I forget what I have. Um, but I don't do it for the letters. I do it because I want to know a little bit about Scrum. I want to know a little bit about Agile. I want to know a little bit about Kanban. I want to know a little bit about this and that because what that does is it adds more tools to my toolbox. So it just
Yep.
makes me a little bit better of a project manager when something comes up and I'm trying to look at it like, man, this is kind of tough. But you know what? I bet if I throw up a Kanban board right here for the team, I think we're going to do a lot better because they can visually see what's going on, and that's what they're asking for. But if I never went and got any training, even at the foundational level of Kanban, I would have never known to do that and to make my team more efficient. So I think as project managers, we got to do the like, trust, respect, build the relationships, but we still got to take it upon ourselves to say, you know what? Somebody mentioned this Kanban thing or this Kaizen thing. I've never
Yeah.
heard of that. So let me go Google that. Let me go take a quick Udemy course or go see Vets to PM for
ACP
Scrum
and
or
Scrum. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's
they'll
why the
get me there.
PDUs, like the PDUs, professional development units. So you earn your PMP and then you have your PMP for 60 months. But in 60 months, you are expected to, gain more knowledge. And so to get these, 60 PDUs as well, or it's 3 years, yeah, sorry, 3 years,
Yeah,
60 PDUs. And so, and I'm a firm believer, yes, go and get certifications, education, and training, but couple that with experience. So is there something that you can do at your job? So for instance, we are running a Scrum Bond now
ooh,
at Vets to
nice.
PM. So that's what we're doing. We utilize Scrum. So we are a Scrum project management team, and we do Scrum Bond. And so Doc announced it in September in Arizona. Hey, this is the direction of our company, and so all of us are going to get our Scrum certification, the basic Scrum certification, and then we're all going to run little Scrum projects within our departments. So we
Nice.
have the certification and we have the experience. That's what military members really should be aiming for. I am all for going to get all your masters and your doctorate and all the PMPs and the this and that, but ensure that you're coupling that with experience. So if you're still in the service, right, take your leave and do a mini internship. Grab onto a company, and say, "Hey, I would love to do an internship with you a week, maybe every quarter." I mean, we get 30 days of leave, right? Like utilize it strategically, and then maybe you're building these relationships so then you can go and do a skill bridge, right? A DoD skill bridge with that same company, but you really want to pair the education, the training, the certifications, all that with real world experience.
Yeah. Or even within your unit, right? Think
Yeah.
about like if you go get some Lean Six Sigma training, and you might be able to help your own unit out even in the military and you're gaining experience. But it's like you said, we got to be able to use what we learn and actually try to apply it so we can actually say, yeah, I learned about it. There's a difference between saying, yeah, I learned a little bit about it than other than, yeah, I've learned about it, but then I've actually applied it.
Yeah.
Whether it was a successful application or not, at least you're attempting to apply that new knowledge. And I like what you mentioned about PDUs, right? We got to get the PDUs, and this is hard for military people, right? What was the courses we used to have to take? Correspondence courses, right?
Yeah.
We had to take correspondence courses. We would just blow through them because we wanted promotion points. Let's just be real. Your squad leader like, hey, did you do any correspondence courses this week? Yeah, I did 60 of them.
Yeah,
All
sure
right.
you did.
Don't don't take that attitude towards your PDUs. Actually learn. You got to get the PDUs anyways to keep the certification, but take that to go learn, like you said, Scrum, Kanban, whatever it is, and actually apply it into the experience. So we got to, as military people, we got to sometimes flip our thought process when we hear PDUs. Don't look at it as a this is an annoyance or a hindrance or more work I got to do. No, that's an opportunity for you to grow as a project manager. The more tools you have in your toolbox, I promise you, if you actually apply them and learn them, will benefit you in some future project when you're going to need it. And you're going to say, you know what? I actually do know something about that. I've actually applied that before.
Yeah.
I know it will work here today.
Yeah. And I always say too, because people ask me, when should I get my PMP? As soon as you're qualified to get it.
Yeah.
So most service members are going to be qualified to get it after 8 to 10 years of military experience, right? Because once they hit a certain level, then they're actually managing projects, right? Where they can call themselves a project manager, because that's one of the requirements for PMI is that your role has to be a project manager, right? But when you're in the service, if you earn your PMP, the glory of it is now you can join a well, you can actually join a PMI, local chapter at any time. You don't have to have your PMP, but most of the time you'll be connected with the PMI chapter when you get your PMP. You
Yep.
join the local chapter and they're a nonprofit. So guess what? They're going to need project managers to, initiate, plan, execute, monitor, adjust, and close, right? And if you want more experience, grab onto another nonprofit and ask, like, and I always like to say, look at a job posting that interests you. Look at the basic and the preferred requirements. Highlight what you don't have, and then go to a nonprofit and ask if you could do something in that skill set. So, one, you can learn, and two, you can build upon that skill set. What you do when you're in the military will prepare you for when you're not in the military. And the more that you
Exactly.
prepare while you're in the service, right, the better off you'll be. So a lot of military service members will say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have
Mm.
time. Well, I would argue that it's just not a priority for you, but then you're going to witch and complain that you're not going to get hired or no one sees your value, right? What can you do today? You may not have time, but what could you eliminate? Because I can tell you right now, I could eliminate 4 hours of scrolling in a second and probably earn another master's. You know what I mean? So we do have time. It's just, I tell people all the time, and I'm sure you can relate to Josh, but I had a very smooth and successful transition. Very few obstacles. I'm just going to be real. And mainly it's because I trusted Vets to PM. I translated, what I did and how I did it. I got my PMP, I got my certifications, I got my education, and I did the work 7 years while still serving,
Yeah.
and those are the stories that are happening now that we hear more of because we are in a veterans are supported era. So take the advice of the veterans that have gone before you and prepare while you're still serving.
Yeah, I get the same kind of excuse a lot. I don't have time. You know, here's my simple response. Those who want it find a way.
Yeah.
That's that simple. All right.
Yeah, Alex Hormozy always says that, right? Like someone
Yeah,
was
I
telling
mean,
him, "Oh, I can't get protein while I'm traveling." And he's like, "You will if you want to." I was
that's
like,
right.
"Oh,
You
that's
know,
a good way of putting it, right?"
if you want it, you'll find a way. Like you said, take 4 hours out of your scrolling, habits, whatever it is, right? Double up your work somehow. I mean, figure it out. But if you really want to get it, you'll get there. And but don't try to rush it too soon. But you know, make sure you're ready for that journey. But if you want it, you'll get there.
Absolutely.
I believe that 100%.
All right, so as we wrap up, I'd love for you to give out some tips and tools that you've learned along the way and through your consulting business. What can veterans do today in order to prepare for tomorrow?
Oh, great question. Well, we kind of talked a little bit about, right? Understand our realistic expectations. Understand that when you just because you get a certification does not guarantee you a job. It doesn't. You might go to organizations that have never heard of a PMP. Trust me, they're out there. My first organization did. I had a PMP going for a project manager position. They didn't even know what a PMP was. I was the only one in the company that had one. Okay, so it happens. So that's realistic expectations. Know that it's not going to get you there. Second thing is you got to go out there and get it. If you want it, you're going to have to go get it. No one's going to just give it to you, especially in the civilian world, right? We
Yeah.
talked about it already. Just because you're the first sergeant today doesn't mean you're going to go be a director or senior manager, ops manager in the private sector, right? It's a possibility, but be ready for those real world expectations. That's not always going to be to your liking. And I think a lot of veterans, that's the hard part is we got to fight through that. And then the last thing is don't be afraid to continue your education, whether it's through certifications or getting another degree or things like that, right? The world is too full of amazing things to learn about. Don't
Yeah.
just find one thing and stick with it for the rest of your life. That's kind of, in my opinion, a very old way of doing. People from the 60s, they stayed in manufacturing. That's all they've done their whole life. They've missed out on all the other stuff in the world, right? And in project management, there is so much to learn about. We could talk about
Yeah.
construction project management, IT project management, um, cyber project management, engineering project management. There's so many domains. And then with each of those domains, there's subdomains and subdomains. So don't be afraid to go and say, you know what, I'm going to go learn a little bit about that, just so you can speak about it and understand what people are talking about in the room when you're in those meetings.
Yeah, and also keep in mind too that a project manager may not actually have that title, so PMI just did an Instagram post on this and it was the tour director for a concert and he was managing that project, but they
100%.
said the tour director, and he listed out like all the things he did for initiating and planning and executing and whatever it may be, and I'm like, "Oh, he's the project manager." So when you're looking for those roles, a good rule of thumb is in the search bar, just put project and see what comes up because there's lots of different, other words like project manager, project coordinator, project budgeter, project whatever, right? And then start reading job postings that sound familiar, that sound good to you, and just look at the wording. And most of those, that's like when I went to the HRBP role and I read that job posting, it was all project management. And I
Exactly.
even asked about it in the interview, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's all you do. You manage projects." I'm like, "Boom, I have a PMP," and then I got hired. And because that meant something to them. But you're absolutely right. The PMP might not mean something to all organizations. And so this is what I say. And Josh, I know that you believe this too, and so does Doc. Focus on what you can control, and you stack the deck. Stack your deck. Pay attention to your deck. So
Yep.
your training, your education, your experience. Like people tell me all the time, they have imposter syndrome and all this, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is because I don't have peripheral vision when it comes to me, right? It's like I'm focusing on me. Every veteran needs to focus on you. Don't worry about the recruiter, what they're doing or what they're not doing. Don't worry about this Joe Smo that got this or didn't get this. You worry about you. You adapt and you adjust, right? And I'm sure, Josh, you see it on LinkedIn. Like everybody likes to use the words flexible and adaptable and resilient and adjustable and whatever. And the second that they're supposed to be actually flexible, what are they not?
They are not.
Yeah. And so, it's all about focusing on what you can control. And the one thing that you can control is what you do today to prepare for you tomorrow.
I agree 100%.
All right. Any last words, Josh?
I don't think so, Missy. I think this was an amazing conversation today, and a lot came out. So I really hope for the audience you get a lot out of this. Please reach out to me at any time. I'm sure Misty will put out
Yep.
my socials for LinkedIn and so forth. I would love to be there. I love to mentor veterans. I love to mentor anyone who's wanting to get into project management. I think it's a really wonderful job, but like you mentioned earlier, Misty, it's not for everyone, and that is okay. Don't think just because you're a veteran you need to go into project management. Make sure you understand it and then make that determination for yourself. But I think most veterans, it does suit them well.
Absolutely. I know that Doc was a huge influence in your life, in your career. And so for anyone that's listening, let Josh be that influence in your career. And so he wants to mentor, he wants to guide you. And most importantly, he wants to feed into the veteran community. And we are in the veterans are supported era. No veteran, especially if you are physically and mentally capable, no veteran should struggle alone, right? Yes. Will it be stressful? Absolutely. But there's a difference between, stressful, like normal stressful military transition, like any change, right? And being 100% unprepared and just not ready. And so I always like to say, your goal is to get prepared. And that's what Vets to PM helps you do. We help you prepare for a project management career. And so please reach out to us, reach out to Josh, so you are not alone. Thanks, Josh, for this conversation. Really appreciate you feeding into the veteran community.
Thank you so much, Misty.
Thanks for listening to the Military Transition Academy podcast by Vets to PM. We release new episodes every Tuesday, so make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen. You can catch up on all the previous episodes wherever you download podcasts or watch them on the Vets to PM YouTube channel. To learn more about our programs and upcoming cohorts, visit vetstopm.com. Whether you're a service member, veteran, spouse, or a company looking to hire top military talent, we're here to help you become a project manager or hire one. See you next Tuesday.